for all of y'all on the live stream.
Hi.
Just give me a couple seconds because I know it takes a while after we get there. But I think we're
Good to go.
ready. I'm gonna hit it.
Hit it, Marilo.
I'll hit it.
Marilo on the keys.
Yes. I'm the captain now. Hello, and welcome to Datatopics Unplugged, casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week, from copyrights to productivity. Anything goes. We're also on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, all the above. Anything? LinkedIn, Twitch,
Apple
X,
Podcast.
Apple Podcasts. Yeah.
Spotify.
So if you want to join us in the live stream as well, feel free to come in, leave a question. Bart is the sound engineer, the one always there listening, looking out. So feel free to leave your question. Today is the 2nd of February of 2024. My name is Murillo, and I'm joined by the one and only Bart.
Hi.
And today we don't have any guests,
No.
unfortunately. Yeah, but
It's you and me.
you and me today. But we have some exciting guests in the coming weeks. So cool. So what do we have to start with? Meta used copyright to protect its AI model, but it argues against the law for everyone else. What's it about, Bart?
It's a small article came across. We'll link everything in the show notes. And it's not really news. Like, it's things that happened over the past where they argue a little bit, like, isn't it a bit weird what Meta is doing here? And what they more or less state is that all the data they used to train Llama, that this is under fair use policy. But we all know that there is a lot of discussion on whether or not this is fair use, right? So there they say this is under the fair use policy, and that the other side of this is that when at some point last year Llama got leaked, it landed up on GitHub.
Yes.
And Meta basically, I think sued is a strong word, but they took legal action against GitHub to take it down.
Ah, really?
Because they said this is our property. You're not allowed to use this or share this with the public.
Really?
And that's a bit the duality that they present in this.
But then this is the same. So what I remember, and just to make sure we're talking about the same thing, that there was someone went on a GitHub and made a pull request on the README and put a Tor link to say, oh, if you want to install it, like if you want to download the weights, instead of going through this form and everything that Facebook makes you do, you just install this because it's faster, saves your bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they just made a pull request. It was never accepted, but I think it was a bit funny too, because you go in the comments and there's a whole bunch like this. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. Like people that have nothing to do with Meta, right?
I'm not sure if it's about the source code or about the weights.
I think it was
it's a while ago.
Okay, happened. Because I remember for that. So for
the weights were never supposed to be on GitHub, right?
It was supposed to, but like even that, like, well, it was on the Tor link to download the weights. It was on a pull request on GitHub, so you can just kind of copy I think is the magnet link or something. I forgot the name. So you could basically download the weights for Llama, and
yeah, but I think but anyway, it's a long time ago. But this is what it's about. It's about weights, or that an initial version of the code leaked. Well, it was not yet public, but where they say where they basically send a sort of a cease and this is to GitHub to say you're not allowed to share this. Well, on the other hand, they say everything is fair use. You can use everything, right? And that's a bit
Is it possible that Meta is a big company, that there are actually different departments with different philosophies on this, or do you think it's just them being sneaky?
That's a possibility, but I think in general, like this what is fair use in the LLM age has become very vague, and I think it's very weird. Like there's no one, like for some reason, like no one is really lying awake at night on this.
Yeah. I think it's also there's no it's It's like it's a very important issue, but it's not urgent, I guess. And I think that's why.
That may, but also you get a bit numbed to it.
Yeah.
Like you hear so much about it, and like yet another new thing, yet another new thing. Oh wow, these advancements,
Yeah.
and you focus on that a bit more, I think, and you get a bit numbed to the ethical considerations of all this.
Yeah, I think.
Well, if you would have said this 5 years ago, like these big companies are just gonna say fuck you to IP rights, basically.
Yeah.
Like everybody would say, "What? Oh, no, this can't happen."
Yeah.
Like it's a crazy situation. It's like, and we don't question it anymore. Like
Yeah.
there's someone, oh yeah, maybe there will be a loss, maybe there will be a frame reference, but it's not really
Yeah.
there yet, huh?
Yeah.
And it's really like it's like, and I find it funny that it's not more of a talking point. Like this is like something that is so. If you would, like I said, if you go back 5 years and say that, then would be very weird.
Yeah, for sure.
And
But
now you don't really question. It's like you have something weird happening. Like I'm saying, yeah, my friend went to ski in the Alps and he got killed by an elephant, and like not question that. Like a bit, it's a bit that absurd. Like yeah, shit, yeah, alpine elephants, right?
Yeah.
But like it's
what happens,
like it's a crazy situation, and we're not really questioning it.
Yeah, I think,
and that's a bit the duality that they're posing here in the
that's
article.
true. I think also is like the fact that they just did it, like OpenAI and all these things, they just did it, and I think the outcome was so shiny that people didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing,
right?
Yeah.
It's like if you make an announcement A and B is a bit bigger than A,
yeah,
maybe it overshadows it, right? And I think that's kind
of
you
even see this with more negative stuff, like wars, like things that are going on, and you also get a bit numb to it.
Yeah.
But here the other side of the coin is like there's also a lot of excitement on this.
Yeah, indeed.
Like that's a big difference. Like
I
it's
think
not
the
only
excitement
like
is even more.
It outweighs by far the whole discussion on what's property, right?
Yeah, indeed. And I think also maybe another thing that makes it trickier is that it's the web, right? So it's like when you talk about laws and frameworks and all these things, then usually there's a government, there's like and I think in the web the lines get blurrier. So I think it's tricky. And I think this thing is also like the pace that people are building new things and doing new things is so fast that sometimes I think it's hard for lawmakers to catch up and really understand what it does and really do this and that, right? So, but yeah, I think it's at least ironic, right? The meta is
at least ironic.
At least ironic. And we hear a lot about AI models, or not. We don't really hear a lot about AI models. That's my point, actually, right? We hear a lot about transformers, and we have heard a lot about transformers for a while, right? But if you think about it, transformers is not that new, is it?
I want to say 2018. I'm not 100% sure when the paper came out.
I think it's 2018. Yeah,
it's the paper. Attention is all you need.
Attention is all you need
from someone on Google.
Yeah, from someone on Google, right? And they had there was BERT and all these things, and I think it really took off when they went to another dimension of training data and compute, right? So I think actually that's the main thing that unlocked, right? Like they always said big data. Actually, this is something even when I was studying, right? People keep saying big data, but now the big data that we referred back then is another dimension than the big data we talk when we talk about LLMs and ChatGPT and all these things, right? And I think that's the main challenge that it solved in a lot of ways. And why am I bringing this up now? Because I'm not a researcher, and I think we will have some guests that are more in the research space. So I think it would be an interesting thing to ask them. But one thing that made some noise is Mamba. Mamba.
Is it a snake?
I guess it is, right? I think of every time I hear Mamba, I think of Kobe Bryant, because they had the Mamba mentality. Ever heard of that?
No.
If Tim was here, would kill it.
What is Mamba?
What is Mamba? So maybe just to put a disclaimer, I read a bit about it, but I haven't looked too much into it. So I think it's something new. It's a new architecture. Basically, it's like with state space and whatnot.
Maybe for the listeners, we're talking about transformers. Transformers are a form of architecture that is today more or less considered the state of the art. Things like ChatGPT, Llama use transformer architecture.
GPT, in fact, stands for general pre-trained transformers. I want to say. So yeah.
And Mamba is a different type of architecture.
By the way, on the article that we'll also link in the show notes, it says here that in December of 2017, attention all needs
Okay.
came out. So even before
I stand
that.
corrected.
Yes. So it's a new architecture, right? So there was the attention mechanism that really was the breakthrough for LLMs, and now this is the new contender, let's say, and it's exciting because it's very new, right? So before we had transformers was more in NLP, now it's in computer vision as well. NLP is natural language processing. Natural language is like spoken languages like English, Dutch, French, Portuguese, as opposed to Python, right? So those are programming languages and natural languages, so that's where the NLP comes from. And there were some variations of transformers, like how they work, the encoder, decoder architectures, etc. But the general idea was kind of the same. And this Mamba seems to be something different. Again, I'm not a expert, right? But I think in terms of efficiency and context length, I think that's the main thing that I've seen highlighted in some articles, that ChatGPT struggles with long sequences. So if you have very long pieces of text, it struggles, and Mamba should outperform that.
That's a bit the statement at this point. This is still very new. So Mamba is comes from a paper that was published in December, I think, beginning of December somewhere. There's also a model that you can. I'm not sure if it's actually the model is public, but the benchmark results are public. There is, and it's presented. It has been accepted as a paper on a big conference, ICLR, in March, I think. And Mamba is a state space model, so not a transformer architecture, but a state space model, which is not necessarily super new. I think it was being used in robotics, etc. already, but it is new in a sense that Mamba applies this to the natural language domain.
I think also I saw something on the article as well. Well, don't want to speculate too much, right? But the idea is that similar to like what recurrent neural networks were doing, and then the LSTM came, the long short-term memory, right? That would kind of keep, and it would be good at knowing what to keep and what not to keep in terms of information. And then I guess that the SSM, right, the state space model, it would be good for kind of remembering, quote unquote, what you should keep from one part of tech to the other. That's kind of, again, very high level, and
I must say that I also have a hard time trying to visualize the exact difference and the exact architecture and how it works. I think it would be interesting to have a guest on that is a bit more in depth on this. I understand that one of the major differences is that with a transformer architecture, when you pass in text, when that text gets chunked in tokens, which is more or less a few characters together as a token, and if you have a long text like a transformer model basically has to make connections between all these different tokens that it saw in the past to the last one. So you get this very complex representation, and it also means that the longer the input becomes, the longer the context becomes, the more complex your model becomes to hold all these connections. And with state space model, I'm probably very much butchering and simplifying a lot of things here, is that your model has a certain space, you pass in a new token, and your space changes slightly based on the token, and you more or less follow the token, and you don't have it's more of a linear effect when you process context, which makes that it is easier to, well, that is a claim that it's more performant on long context. In terms of the actual performance, in terms of the more NLP, the domain specific, but also in terms of it's faster in inferencing.
Yeah. So maybe just to make sure I understand what you were saying. So it's like in transformers, usually you pass the whole sequence at once.
You pass depends a bit with the exact type of implementation, but
yeah. But then with the state space, it's really like almost like, again, going back to a window kind of approach. You pass in one token at a time, you change the state gradually, and then
I think the main difference, but again, we should have someone that knows more on this. The main thing is that you have a certain state, and you make adjustments to that state based on the last thing that you saw. While with transformer architecture, you need to make sure that there are associations between everything that you saw in the past and the last token.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes more complex as you add new tokens versus a state that changes every time.
Yeah, basically you need to it will increase the thing that it needs to intake.
But and there's a lot of a bit of hype versus kerfuffle in the community on this. Because it the performance looks very good on long context, and also when you compare it to smaller or similar sizes of transformer models, it seems to outperform them. But it is still very, very new.
Yeah, but I think it's,
so. Let's see what it.
The fact that, I mean, to me, it's good sign, right? Because again, December 2017, so 2018, we're in 2024 now, so 6 years, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So I think to see something new, I think it's refreshing.
Let's see. I think we had something similar last year. RWKV, I think it's called. RWKV, the language model is an RNN-based language model. It also created some hype, a bit similar like this is being that the hype that is currently being created. I have the feeling it didn't truly take off, but maybe I'm not really up to speed on those things. So let's see. Maybe ChatGPT 6 will be Mamba based.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
but actually, if GPT stands for, what was it?
General Pre-trained Transformer.
So it will be
GPSSM.
Chat GPSSM.
Hello.
And I know.
Yeah. But the thing we also mentioned, on the research, they compared that with similar size models, which also to me makes I'm wondering as well if ChatGPT and the transformer models, they're also bad for research in the sense that it's hard to know, just because the model does better with smaller sizes and smaller data, that doesn't mean that it will it will be better when we get to the size of ChatGPT.
Yeah, I also find that very difficult.
Right, and it's you see, a lot of research is conducted in universities. Do they all have access to the same resources they do? Because to me, ChatGPT took off. I mean, again, ChatGPT is 1 year old, and now it has all the hype, or a bit more than 1 year, but anyways. But Transformers, the actual architecture, has been there for so long, right? Sure, so why did it take off? Is because we had someone that said, okay, I'm going to put millions on this now, and let's just push the limits and see where we land, right? And I'm wondering if now with research to really see if the SSMs, either they're going to be much better with less data, because if they need that much compute, it will take some time, I guess, right? To have someone that will bet on this again.
Well, I think if there is any value in it, the big players will use it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I think.
I think so too. But I think it also restricts it a bit, right? Because, I don't know. I just feel like back, I don't know, when we're talking about neural networks, the CNNs and the RNNs and the LSTMs, it was much easier for people to kind of compare what's state of the art because everyone kind of had access to the same compute kind of ish. It was easier to spin up a big GPU on the cloud and say, oh yeah, look, compared to, but now state of the art is trained on the whole internet.
Yeah, and I also find it personally very hard to interpret these metrics. Like every other week, a new model comes out, and there's oh, we outperformed X on that and that domain with these and these numbers, and then wow, and most of the time when I actually try it, I'm oh yeah, let me just go back to ChatGPT 4. It's still better, right?
Yeah, I think I mean, I have a friend that he was doing a PhD, but he did say as well that they're very focused on publishing papers and what's state of the art and what is this and what is that, and sometimes
but it's also it's hard to express in a number, right? The performance, I think so, because you expect it's natural language and you expect something. It's not easy to put that in. It's an approximation of what you want to see.
It's subjective, right? It's it's more of a feeling. Yeah, I see what you're saying. But let's see. But maybe we can switch topics.
Okay, let's switch. You're winking to me, but so I have the feeling that this is a segue.
Yes, it is a segue.
Maybe you always do this segue so naturally. Yeah,
I know, right? So smooth is yeah. You use Git part?
I use Git.
Maybe what is Git for someone that doesn't know what Git is?
Git is a code versioning system that allows you to, oh, you're putting me a bit on the spot with this definition, that allows you to version your code. And what does that mean is that I make, so I've written some code, saving it. Tomorrow I work on this again, save on this again, save these changes again. And that's over time, you can see in the history what changed when, and also by who, and that you can also revert these changes. And you can build on all of this by forking and going to branches and making sure that your development experience gets optimized and all of these things.
Indeed.
Is that a good definition?
I think so.
And Git is a implementation.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming
from Linus, right? Linus Torvalds, the same
Linus
guy from
himself.
Linux. Yeah. Actually, I think you call it like the stupid.
Sorry,
you call it something.
Are you talking about Linus?
No. He called Git. It was like the stupid something tracker.
Okay.
Git stupid content tracker.
Okay.
Yeah, see? I'm not making
sense. We almost got cancelled there.
Yeah, almost. I will never say. Not like that.
So this is his nickname for.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what he called it. Was like the stupid content tracker. But indeed, so I think actually the first time when I was in university and I was like learning about Git, I came across the like videos, and the first comparison was like when you're building like your Word document, you're on your computer, and then you build a report, and then you ask for feedback, and it's like, okay, now it's the report final, or master thesis final, and then you read it again. It's like no, master thesis final, and then you have all these things, right? So I think Git is a way that you can kind of keep track of all these versions, and also it's very popular for software development, right? So there's like these things, these branches, right, which are different versions of your code that can live in parallel to each other, and you can also merge. And talking about branches, so Git is a CLI, command line interface tool, and you can actually switch between branches, right? How do you switch between branches?
Maybe one step. No, just want to, maybe for listeners, what is a branch?
Yeah, so a branch is like if you think of a project as a tree, right? Like you're gonna have different branches, meaning like the version, let's say the original version of your code will take two different
paths.
Yeah. So
maybe it's almost like two people working on it, and they can merge later, for example. Right?
Exactly. So for example, if we have a code, we have something, me and you, Bart, we're working on something. I don't want to be seeing the changes that you're making, so I can have my own branch. So I only have my changes, and then we can actually merge them later. We can make sure that my changes and your changes are both included in the final product. So it's something that's nice for us to.
So to come back to your question, how do I switch branches? I typically do, I type git checkout my branch name, or when I create a new branch, I do git checkout -b my new branch name.
Nice. I do that too, but apparently there's a new command called git switch.
Oh wow!
Yes, which is made exactly for that.
Isn't checkout made exactly for that?
Checkout. I mean, so again, to me, that's what I also wanted to bring to you. Do you think this is something that was needed or not? Because I think from what I read, the motivation behind creating this command is that checkout did too much. So for example, let's imagine you have changes that you don't want to include. You want to discard these changes on these files.
Okay.
How do you do this?
So tell me again. You want
to discard?
I was looking at the comments.
If you want to discard changes on that you have on your Git project.
My cutting corners is git reset.
Okay, git reset. Yeah, that's
hard.
But so I guess they were saying like checkout is too powerful of a command. I guess it does too many things because you can check out not just branches. You can check out
files. Yeah. You can revert files.
Things. You can do all that. So then the idea is that now there is a git switch with and a git restore. So they basically broke it down into two things.
And it restores that branch.
I think so. I think it restores. Maybe it's like so. To be a bit more specific, and if you don't know Git, maybe it's a bit much, but like instead of committing, so instead of saving, quote unquote, these changes, you can check out the changes, right? So you go back, and now you have the restore to do that. So it's like restore is just to not commit stuff. So it's like git checkout -- whatever, I think.
And how are you going to use it?
I'm not sure, right? Because I also have aliases for this. So instead of typing git status, I usually put GST because it actually comes with oh my Z shell. Right, there's a whole bunch of aliases. So in the git checkout, is actually aliased to GCO,
Hmm.
and git checkout branch is GCB. So I feel like now is so much muscle memory that I don't know if it's something that I'll include. But also, I was wondering if, because when I was learning Git, I don't remember thinking that this was so weird, especially because Git a lot of the times gives you, if you want to commit this, run this command. If you want to ignore this, run this. So a lot of times it's like copy and paste stuff, like git checkout dash dash staged, whatever. You know, you don't have to remember this almost, or when you're pushing a new branch to the remote, right? A lot of times it's like you git no you git commit.
But you basically use like 2 or 3 actions, and all the rest like basically means, oh fuck, I messed something up and I do need to Google how to fix it.
Exactly, right? You can chat GPT it, you know.
Now you can chat GPT it.
But so I don't know, like when I was learning Git, that was never something that I remember confused me so much, because the tool will give me suggestions, you know, like, oh, if you want to save them to this, if you want to do this to that.
But now you're sounding a bit old. That is like,
Yeah, no, that's
this is good enough what I'm used to.
That's what I was that's kind of my second thoughts.
Let's come back to this in a few months. I'm going to ask you again. Are you using checkout or switch?
But I think I need to actively try to do it, right?
How I typically do these things when there are new things in a language or new things in a tool that I use a lot. Typically, I think, don't use it. Never was looking for it, so I'm not gonna not gonna try it. It's like because it's not part of your regular routine.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I'm thinking to myself, shit, Bart, you're getting old, so you need to force yourself to do these 2 things. And then you do it 3 times, and then it becomes a new normal.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, sometimes you are missing out, right? Like, for example, ChatGPT, there are people that say, oh, I never needed my ID. But, like, you are missing out in a way, right? It's a huge productivity.
Yeah, I think you need to remain knowledgeable or relevant. Like, you need to actively keep testing stuff and exploring
but even
stuff.
Like,
maybe this is a bit minimal
this
for this this example, a bit minimal.
But I think
check out or switch.
Even like I don't know, Python packaging. There was like the requirements.txt and the setup.py. Now then poetry came along with PyProject.toml, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this other thing. And then people are like, oh, why would you try? Poetry works. And I was like, well, I could have said the same thing when I was using requirements.txt and setup.py. But like, if you don't know what the alternative is, you're never gonna be able to compare and know what you're missing out.
But that's the thing, yeah.
Right. Same thing with ChatGPT, right? If you say, oh, I'm okay with my quote unquote dumb autocomplete, but if you're using Copilot, maybe if you try once, you're gonna be like, okay, this is what I'm missing out. And I think maybe you should give it a try.
It's true.
Before knowing.
To a lot of things.
Right.
I was on Atom in 2018, and I said the same thing about VS Code.
And now?
Why do I need a new ID? But you try it out, and then
and then you saw some white hairs, and you're like, man, I'm sound old.
But if I understand you correctly, you learned Git in university. You never used anything else. You never used another VCS
like
tool.
I think Mercurial, is one of them.
Mercurial is one of them.
Yeah,
SVN.
no, never used it.
Okay.
But have you?
Well, before Git, I used SVN, and then before that, Mercurial, actually.
Yeah, and is there a big difference between them? Did you have a favorite, or was it just like, okay, people are using Git, it's kind of the same old, different flavors of the same thing?
I have the feeling I can't compare it well, because when I, definitely when I was using Mercurial, and also to a big extent when I was using SVN, it was not in a big team. And like my working on a code base with a team experience mainly centers around Git.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time comparing that.
Yeah, I'm wondering also if we talked about versioning. If you go to Google Drive, there is a versioning as well, right? And I said, I was like, I have
the feeling you're gonna say controversial stuff.
No,
we don't need Git. This is what you're gonna say.
No. I want to see someone that tries to do something like this, like a versioning system for projects, but not Git, like something more user friendly, or something that looks a bit more like the versioning we see in Google Docs or something. I think that could be interesting to take a look. But yeah, not sure. But yeah, and I think a lot of these tools are to increase our productivity.
Yeah.
Right.
You're winking again. It's probably a segue again.
If you're not watching the live stream, you can see Bart's face when he realizes what I'm hinting towards. Yeah. Productivity killers. So on the other side of productivity boost, we have some productivity killers.
Whew. Know all about it.
Yeah, too well. Anything you want to get off your chest here? Just
No. I'm gonna wait for.
So these are just some. It's like maybe a lighter, less technical topic here, but something came up after the New Year's. Biggest productivity killers in the engineering industry. So the author here, Gregor, I want to say, and I'm not going to try his last name, just kind of listed the top 3 productivity killers in his point of view.
Okay.
And actually there's an additional one, but basically the three of them are perfectionism, procrastination, and context switching. So the perfectionism, I agree, and I think I have this, like, this links to other things I think in general about my life, right? So the more and more, like, I'm working on things and working on projects, I find that it's better to just kind of get something out the door that is not perfect, is not feature complete, and then it's like you can take a pause, right? Like, it's fine. You can just kind of do it and it's there. And then maybe once you get a hang of it, or you want to be motivated again to do it, then you can take another step, right? And usually when I'm tackling projects like this, I go way further than I would have if I had scoped it super, like, oh, I have to have this, and this. Until this is not finished, I'm not going to publish. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to tell anyone. So I guess this is not perfectionism. This is more like feature completion, I guess, and scoping. But in the sense that, like, there's the ideal and then there's the practical. Same thing with this podcast, actually, right? Like, we had a lot of ideas of things that we could do, this and this, but it's like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Let's make something that is easy for us to get out the door, to do it every week. Yeah. We didn't start with the live stream. Now we have the live stream. Now we have this. Now we have that. Now we're going to have external guests soon. So I think it's, I'm trying to learn Romanian. My partner's Romanian. I was doing Duolingo because it's something easy. It's not the best. It's not perfect, right? Maybe if I were to buy a book or do a course or something, that would be more efficient. But I think I'm trying to tackle things more as do a little bit every day, something that you can, be consistent with.
But if I understand correctly, perfectionism for you in your engineering work is not a thing.
I feel like you're setting some traps for me there. Well, I think perfectionism, it's like a fluffy word, because I think what it means for me, like, if you look at we built something, right? Is this perfect? You may say yes, I may say no. So it's a bit controversial. So I feel like nothing is really perfect. It's almost like you're writing a book. You can always revise it. You can always make it better, right? So first, nothing is perfect. But I think it's more, to me, it's more about being consistent and being the most efficient, or not efficient, but like the most, how can I say it? That checks all the boxes, I guess. So last week, for example, I made a comment about AI coaches for running. And I made a comment that when I work out, I just go and I just try to do something that is easy. And it's definitely not the most efficient, but it's something that I can keep up doing. And I think in general, it's like being efficient or taking the most out of your effort is definitely important. But to me, in my point of view, the most important thing is being consistent. So the same thing with diet, the same thing with all these things, right? So if you can be consistent, so you can do something every day, you can train every day, and you can still try to get more out of that effort that you're putting, I think that's perfect. But for you to get more out of that one workout, you end up being less consistent, then I don't think that's a good trade-off, right? So, and I think the conversations a lot of the times are about what's more efficient, what's better, what's faster, what's shinier. But I think sometimes we miss a bit, like, what can you do? What can you take up? Let's start there. Can you walk around the block? Just walk around the block. Maybe one day you're going to want to go.
I think what you miss a little bit when it comes specifically to software development is there's also a team aspect to this. I think a lot of people also like, I'm going to commit to this branch, and everybody will see it. Like, this is also something that you need to get used to when you enter the field. And if you are like this, these things add up. Like, it's not just, typically you're not just working solo on a project, right?
No, that is true.
And if I look at myself, not necessarily to the team approach, but when it comes to perfectionism, when writing code or when building software solutions, I'm a bit I have two extremes. I can be very perfectionist when it comes to when I don't have anything yet, and I need to set up a system with a lot of components. I will Google like everything, will read everything, will look at how many GitHub stars does this have, we'll look at how long it existed, we'll also look at the shininess factor, we'll see like based on past experience. I'm very perfectionist, like often a bit too much. And then on the other side, when I start, maybe I'm a bit too much focused on let's get just something that works.
Interesting.
Which I think let's get something that works is very good to very quickly get something that works. It's not a perfectionist mindset at all, but not necessarily a good idea for the long run. From the moment that it skills and you have a team working on it.
Yeah, actually, interesting you mentioned this. This week I had a conversation with a colleague that he was talking about. Well, he had a conversation with someone else, but was talking about one-way doors and two-way doors. Something that I think came from like Jeff Bezos or something. But basically, there's some decisions that are one-way doors, and there's some decisions that are two-way doors.
Yeah.
And the decisions that are two-way doors basically can go back and forth. Yeah. You shouldn't sweat so much. Just do it. You need to go back, you go back. But it feels like that's what you're doing, maybe unconsciously, because if you choose the technology, that's a one-way door, because after for you to go back, you have to refactor, you have to do a lot of stuff builds around that.
Interesting thing to think about like this. Yeah.
So it's like you overthink, but like you put a lot of time and effort into thinking the technology, because a lot of the stuff would depend on that.
Never said that I also make good choices, but it needs.
No, but I think it actually matches pretty nicely, right? Because after that, you're just getting something done and making the code look nice or whatever.
But it's a good way to think about like components in an architecture. I think indeed, like to me, think about a database. You need a database for whatever. Like you can go with what is trusted and what you know will work, and Postgres, or you can get the latest shiny database that there is a lot of hype and might be very cool to use.
Yeah,
right? And that is. But if you think about it, like the two-way, one-way door.
Yeah, indeed.
Like this is a database. Like going back is gonna be super hard a few months from now, right? Like changing the data storage is gonna be a big thing.
Yeah.
Like versus, I'm gonna let's say it's Python. I'm gonna write my Python code, and this class I'm gonna put in that file, that class in that file. I mean, that's a two-way door. Like exactly. that you can change easily, right?
Yeah.
That is. But it's an interesting way to.
But it feels like that's what you're doing in a way. Because maybe you are very pragmatic and just getting something out the door because you can change it very easily afterwards.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it looks like a very conscious, well thought out approach. Yeah, thank you.
But maybe it's just like naturally it comes to you, But
and what were the other ones? The productivity killers in software engineering.
Procrastination, which I think is a bit self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I do think the only I don't know if he's talking more in the personal project sense or more in the group sense. I think if you're in a team, there is an external pressure, let's say that. So I think
which is probably good.
Yeah,
I think people tend to prioritize what they like the best, right? Which is not necessarily the most valuable.
Yeah, I think sometimes to me it's like you have an idea, you're motivated, and then you hit a wall, and then you kind of procrastinate after that. So sometimes for me, even I go to I book a public YouTube live stream on the because then because I have the deadline, I will be forced to do it.
Yeah.
It won't be perfect though. That's the thing. But like if I was always waiting to make the perfect presentation, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. It's again one of those things, it's like just do something, get it out the door, and then if you do more presentations, you're gonna get better at it. You're gonna have more stuff, you're gonna be able to share more ideas, right? So it kind of goes back a bit to the first one. I know I kind of close that. And the last one is context switching.
Killer.
Which, I think that was pretty popular among
I think that of the ones you mentioned, I think to me that is me personally, that is my biggest productivity killer.
Yeah, but I think that one is the one I'm most conscious of. I think it's
that's a good one. That is true. That's
like the other ones sneak up on me. Like for example,
that's a fair point. Yeah.
Especially the procrastination, the perfectionism one, because I was even thinking for I don't know, in the AI, a lot of times you work with notebooks, and a lot of times that's for exploration. And I I want to make the codes in notebook look nice, but I'm like, or I want to make sure that the cells are all nice and this, and there's a logical progress. But I'm like, man, just like, this is exploration. You're just prototyping. This is not the time, and I have to, like, I want to put linters on a notebook, like I want to run black on Jupyter Lab. And I'm like, man,
is this because you're the author of Databooks?
I am author of Databooks. Thanks, right?
That's exactly what this does, right?
Well, not really, not that in particular. You can do. Well,
I thought you could also do linting, no?
No, there are other tools for
formatting.
that. There are other tools for
Okay,
that.
I
Actually,
thought it was part of it. Yeah.
Black, there is already they already format Jupyter
Yeah,
notebooks
yeah.
already. So, but like things like that, I need to, like, it sneaks up on me, and I need to. I know that it's a problem, but I don't notice how much a problem it is. Context switching, it's easy. Like, oh, you have this meeting, then you have this meeting, then you have this meeting, and then, like, they're all three different things. And then you have some focus time, but then you have another meeting, and it's like, well, yeah, I had to switch context 4 times, and it takes me a while. Sometimes, it's more in my face.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I address context switching more than I address the other two. Well, procrastination, I'm not sure if I relate so much, but perfectionism for sure. What tips do you have for avoiding context switching?
I don't. I'm bad at it myself.
Okay. Next
so
topic.
I think it's also a personal thing.
Yeah.
So I think I'm personally quite good at context switching.
Okay.
But there's like a threshold. I think, like, how many context switches do you do during a workday, and that threshold is for everybody different.
Okay.
Right. And I think that threshold is something that you can manage. Like, are you being interrupted by meetings? Are you interrupted by calls? Are you interrupted by things popping up on your laptop? Like, and these are tangible things that you can manage, but maybe are not easy, right? Because there's an external pressure to this as well. Maybe external expectations.
Were you a very all over the place kid when you were growing up?
Some say I was. I never looked at it that way.
Everyone except you.
I never looked at it that way.
My mom, my dad, my brother, man.
Some say I was.
Because I think I cope better with doing a lot of things than other people. But I also think, like, when I was growing up, that was something that was a bit frowned upon. Like, I needed to listen to music to do homework. I needed to do this. Like, I needed the stimulus.
Yeah. The same, yeah.
But I think, or I had a hard time paying attention in class, right? All these things, and I think now I wonder. So I'm not. I don't have any credentials to talk about it, but I wonder if this gives me an easier time. That this trait makes it easy for me to switch context and not feel like I'm out of energy. Because I'm used to be like, do this. Actually, in fact, if I'm just doing the one thing for too long, I get bored of it. Like, even Databooks, like, I wrote it, but it's been like a long time since I haven't touched on it. Still works though. Go and use.
I've been the same. Yeah, like when we talk about, for example, open source, like, I maintain it when I use it, and then for the moment I don't use it anymore. Like, it's like nowhere on my radar anymore.
Yeah, and it's like
it's
yeah.
That is.
But yeah, and we did. Do we have? Yeah, I think we have time. We talked about databases as well. How choosing a database is, are you gonna use the latest shiny thing or Postgres? And then here I see, like, PG Analytics.
Yes.
Speeding up Postgres analytical queries by 94x. Ooh.
Yeah, like, this is a hype title, huh?
Yeah.
It's like clickbait title.
Yeah, clickbait. Okay.
This is something that popped up in my feed, I think yesterday, actually. It is a, I assume, company, which is called Parade DB, which has created a plugin for Postgres.
Okay.
The number one database.
Yes. Actually, maybe
I think the number one open source database, and the only one that is growing over time.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. But maybe a bit of a side note. Postgres. I heard it somewhere as well. Not first-hand information here. That was SQL, and then there was the NoSQL thing. Now Postgres has like a JSON data type, so you can actually add some unstructured stuff there, kind of included stuff there. And then now there's the vector database, and then people are like, I heard someone arguing that it's kind of the same thing with NoSQL. It's like we have vector databases that are just vector databases, but then you have Postgres, PG Vector, I think.
There's
right?
a plugin for Postgres. Yeah.
Indeed, and it's like people go a bit out, but they always come back. It's like Postgres seems to kind of.
It's the mama elephant.
It is actually indeed. I saw even wrote
For
here.
people that don't know it, there's an elephant logo. Huh?
Who needs anything else than Mama Elephant? Yeah.
So PG Analytics is an analytical plugin for Postgres, and I haven't tried it myself yet. It promises very high performance, a very big improvement versus the native analytical capabilities of Postgres database.
So when you say analytical plugin, what do you mean exactly?
Analytical is when we go a bit back in time, databases were more or less, the focus of a database was transaction based. I want to insert something, I want to update something, I want to delete something. Like this was the basic uses of a database. When we look at it today, where data has become a big thing, and the analysis of data in a database has become very important, and there's a different focus. And it's typically very hard to do these things at the same performance. So being very good at transactional things and being very good at analytical things.
Mm-hmm. And the analytical things, I guess, are like
grouping, aggregating, these type of joining across large tables. These type of things. Typically very hard to do these things. Postgres is transaction focused. Has always been transaction focused. That's the history, but has plugins that are analytical focused. I think the best known is more time series focused is Timescale DB, and it's actually it's also a Postgres plugin, and they actually compare it to a number of other analytical databases, and it's it's of course much faster than Postgres natively, 94x, but it's also let me just see that I'm not bullshitting you. It is.
I would appreciate it if you.
It is more or less on point with ClickHouse, which is very, very impressive, right? It is faster in its own benchmark. So let's.
What is ClickHouse? Why is it impressive?
ClickHouse is a very fast analytical database.
But it's like a Postgres, because I see here Parquet single, so it's just reading files, I guess, or.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Well, Parquet files, and it will probably bring stuff in memory, cache stuff, and it's also it's faster than Elasticsearch and then a lot of other things. Much faster than Timescale DB. But again, I don't know the details of this benchmark. If I would be the company behind this plugin, I would also make sure that it looks very nice. So I don't know what this means in practice, of course. What they do actually, and like again, I didn't test it and didn't look at the code myself, but they say that they introduce a new type of table. It's called a Delta Lake table, and it behaves a bit similar to a regular Postgres table, but a regular Postgres table is typically row oriented. This is column oriented. This column oriented builds on Apache Arrow. Because of that, can do much faster analytical operations.
And I think Apache Arrow, if I remember correctly, is like a conventional how you should map your table in memory. So like.
And do operations on this.
And do operations, right? So
something that is very widely used by a lot of technologies. So it looks very interesting. Let's see what it gives in the future. And this is the first time I hear about Parade DB, which is the company behind this, and which will probably in the near future offer a service, a managed service around Postgres analytics. But it's cool to see all these things being built on Postgres.
Yeah, true. Maybe one thing about the benchmarks in general, I always, when I see a benchmark first, I always have a, let's call it a healthy skepticism. Because even if you see, I don't know, for data frames like pandas, polars, all these things, right? They also have a whole bunch of data, a whole bunch of benchmarks, and it's always like, oh, if you have this much data, and if you do 3 group buys, 2 where clauses, and then this is the fastest. Of course, there's like the top 3 are kind of repeated, like they circle a bit, right? So you can still get some insights, but it's like to say 94x. What kind of operation are you
It's
doing?
to get me to click. That's the operation.
Exactly, yeah. And it works. So
It works.
here we are. Maybe also I see here why data fusion, and I was trying to see because I think there's a Rust thing for Apache Arrow, no?
Oh, that would also add to the hype. Yeah, they should have added it to the title.
Yeah, right. I think they should.
Query engine in built in Rust. It's actually like it's in the title. It's in the article which query engine they use. Let me see. For people interested, it's Apache Data Fusion.
Yeah, but
as a query engine.
Let's see. Apache Data Fusion.
You want to see if it's Rust based, right?
I think it is.
It is. Yeah, I found it.
It is. Yeah.
So this. They should have added it to the title, right?
Maybe.
I think then you would have clicked.
I would have clicked. I would have been the one to bring this.
I click anything that is Postgres related, but if they would have added Rust, you would have clicked as well.
You know that meme that is like the two really strong, and there's one like black guy, one white guy, and they're like shaking hands.
Yeah,
it's like me and you with this. You know, it's like database Rust, and it's like yes. You know, we can be friends.
Which guy are you in that?
Huh?
Which guy are you in that meme?
No comment.
Okay.
All right. I think those are all the topics for today. We will not have the quote or not quote today.
No, we need to rethink it a little bit. Huh?
Yes, because now we're gonna have a.
So we sometimes have a lag effect. So we did the quote or not quote, where we have 3 quotes, one of them being real, 2 of them being fake.
Yes.
ChatGPT generated or GenAI generated. The challenge is it when we had a guest and day one that we need to ask the guest the next time to provide them. So we need to rethink a little bit how we do this and that we make it session independent.
Yeah.
So
but again, it's like the whole iterative thing, you know. I feel like it was something easy to start with. Now we can, you know. So I think
maybe we can also we can broaden it up a bit. I think it would be nice because we also do the streams now.
Yeah.
If we maybe also have the possibility of a visual effect. We do a GenAI image.
True.
We leave it a bit up to the person that brings it. Quote, image.
But we still need to cater to our listeners only, yeah?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
Yeah,
we'll come up with something good. Maybe one last
Maybe
thing.
you can give a vivid description of the images.
Okay. Like we can have some sound.
Like a bit of an ASMR. Like you can try it. I'll
practice for next time.
Maybe you can whisper a bit a description.
I'll practice,
and then we can ask. This is a good test.
I'll practice before the live stream, and then when I'm
I can't put you on the spot like this.
I'm sorry, I don't think you can.
Okay, I'll try. I'm for the people that okay, for the listeners, Marilo is holding something. Marilo is holding a bottle of beer.
Do we have any sounds here that are like give a nice vibe to
a bit romantic vibe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We need to think about this. We're gonna do this right next time.
We're gonna do it right.
We're half-assing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Next time. So feel free to join us. Maybe one last thing. My partner Maria, she went to the UK and she kindly brought us Toblerone.
Oh, nice.
So just wanted to. So if you're watching, Maria, see, I brought it to the podcast to offer some to Bart. Do you like sweets? No.
I like sweets. Yeah. It is chocolate. I've heard it's chocolate, right?
Yeah,
but it's still closed.
Yeah, it's closed. Maybe I should have opened because it's gonna make a lot of noise. But we'll have some.
We'll have it after. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for.
Now we did a shout out to Maria. Thank you, Maria.
Yeah. So thank you for following the live stream. Next week we have a guest, external guest.
Who do we have?
I think Nemanja.
Yes,
Nemanja. So looking forward.
Nemanja, and how?
His last name?
Yeah.
You're gonna try that?
I'm gonna try it. It's a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna ask him tomorrow. Next week we're gonna ask him.
You wanna be cancelled, Bart?
We're gonna ask him. Yeah, I don't want to get cancelled. Next week we're gonna ask. He is an MLOps lead at Euroclear.
Yes.
Very interesting. He's also done a ton of tutoring on machine learning. Hosted a bunch of DataCamp courses.
Exactly.
So I'm
Overall,
really
cool
excited
guy.
to have him here.
Yeah. He used to be a colleague, so really nice guy.
Yeah.
Really happy that he's joining us.
Definitely.
Cool. All right, then I'll see you then.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Oh, actually, I put the wrong one.